the way from Providence, Rhode Island, welcome to the Potterverse. It's a podcast dedicated to the book and film universe of Harry Potter. So grab your favorite wands and time turners, let's step into the night and pursue that flighty temptress adventure. Welcome back. My name is Mary Larson.
My name is Blake, and I want a horse that drinks single malt whiskey. I just want a dog, maybe a cat.
That
How
would
about
be
a
an
ferret?
Expensive thing to feed.
Sure, we'll figure it out.
Oh,
We'll figure it out.
I don't know about that.
Just a horse, or like I'll do a mouse. Mouse don't drink all that much.
A mouse does not. You're right.
A mouse has like a
Thimblesworth.
couple of little, you get them one of them little sippers.
Mm-hmm.
And they just drink the single. Like,
Okay.
How cool would that be? Just walking around, having a little too much.
I dig it.
Stumbling and bumbling.
Ew, excuse me, girl.
Yeah, it's a prerequisite that the horse. The mouse must talk as well.
Of course. There's no such thing as having a pet mouse if it can't talk.
Yeah. So basically, I want Mickey, who goes around and drinks single malt whiskey.
Oh my goodness gracious. You are something else.
Oh.
Well, here we are. We are at chapter 15 in the Goblet of Fire, Beauxbatons and Durmstrang. A portkey, Ron suggested, or they could apparate. Maybe you're allowed to do it under 17, wherever they're from. You can't apparate inside the Hogwarts grounds. How often do I have to tell you? Said Hermione impatiently. They scanned the darkening grounds excitedly, but nothing was moving. Everything was still, silent, and quite as usual. Harry was starting to feel cold. He wished they hurry up. Maybe the foreign students were preparing a dramatic entrance. The movie. He remembered that Mr. Weasley had said back at the campsite before the Quidditch World Cup, always the same. We can't resist showing off when we get together.
Good one, Mary. I noticed that you mentioned the movie in this one. Just a good question right off the bat.
Home.
It's just, you know what I hate about that entrance? No, I don't mind that. I hate the fact that there's this big buildup, and it's like Victor Crumb, and all he does is just walk in.
Walk. Where at least here,
He doesn't
they're
even
like,
do anything.
They're like, Victor has a little head cold and needs to come inside. Like, that
Makes
makes
sense.
sense. Had they said that in the movie, we would be like, whatever. He's not dancing and blowing fire snakes. It's fine.
Victor Crumb, he just walks. He just struts in.
He's fine too. Goblet of Fire took a lot of artistic liberties.
I know, man. We talked about
rhyme?
how great the adaptation was of The Prisoner of Azkaban. My thought process so far on the Goblet of Fire, just from what I have read,
It's different. There's a lot of people who feel like the Goblet of Fire movie is one of the best, but it is the adaptation part. See, a lot of people would also argue that the adaptation of the third of Prisoner of Azkaban isn't enough. Like, it's not explained enough. The Marauders aren't explained enough.
yeah, and that's well, you know what? Let's get into that
Okay.
conversation in a little bit. Why don't
Okay.
we do that? Why don't we just get on with the rest of the
Well,
show?
before we
shall
get into this, of course, we have so much to talk about. There was a lot that happened in this chapter. I'm talking about 2 months worth of stuff, which we'll get to. We want to thank all of you who are either joining us in the conversations right now in the videos. Those of you who are joining us at jointhenerdclan.com. You are making all of this possible. We've been having a lot of technical issues with a breaking computer, and we've had several of you reach out saying, how can I help? One of the best ways that you can help is becoming a member at jointhenerdclan.com. Another way that you can help is heading on over to Minute with Mary. You can also search the hashtag Minute with Mary on Instagram or Facebook. I love to help people feel more confident and creative when it comes to their makeup, and you can request to join my exclusive VIP group. Just search the hashtag on Facebook, Minute with Mary.
I've also set up on maryandblake.com an area where you can just do a single-time donation. If you want to help us get a brand new state-of-the-art computer that will run this entire studio, and you don't want to do jointhenerdclan.com, that's okay. You can do a single donation. And so just go to maryandblake.com and you'll see the donation.
All right.
there. So
Let's get this started.
Let's do it, shall we?
I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good.
Here we go, a brief summary of Chapter 15. Harry writes another letter to Sirius being like, never mind, nothing bad's happening, no worries whatsoever. Professor Moody, faux Moody, thinks that it's a great idea to teach all the kids what it feels like to have the Imperious Curse put upon them as well. A lot of cleaning and getting ready for the students of Beauxbatons and Durmstrang as they arrive, and Hedwig comes back with a note from Sirius saying, ha ha ha.
Nice try.
Nice try, but I'm coming back anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice try, Harry. So, yeah, as I said, what's interesting with this is it leaves off the next day after their first defense against the dark arts class. And then it ends with Beauxbatons and Durmstrang arriving, which we were told was like near Halloween, October 30th or whatever. So we go from the first week of classes
all the way till Halloween.
All in this one chapter, which I got to tell you, I felt like this chapter, a lot of different things just kept kind of coming at us.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the author puts a lot of restrictions on herself, ones that are not necessarily freeing, and I think some of the time the stories suffer because she has to have each book last 1 year.
It is funny because, we kind of look forward to the Halloween, to the holidays. We get to school and that's like a holiday in and of itself.
Yep.
And then the next big thing that we're all looking forward to, as are the kids, is Halloween. I mean, heck, Halloween at Hogwarts is really flipping cool. Our kids look forward to Halloween and we're not even wizards, And then we keep going forward. And then in the next one, of course, is Christmas. And then they even mention the Easter holidays and stuff. So it's kind of, like you said, it really all does take place in this school year. It needs to take place September to June. And we have these milestone holidays that oftentimes things are anchored around.
Sure, and the issue that I think the author faces in like I was saying, in keeping the entire story focused onto one academic school year, that being she has to adhere to a timeline, and she has to make things stretch out, or she has to condense them very quickly in order to fulfill that timeline. And sometimes, like, for example, I noticed the meme on the internet the other day, but it's
the meme?
The meme.
Okay.
Where it says, Voldemort's really nice. He always takes Harry's education into consideration, where he always attacks at the end of the year.
True.
That is one of those things where you look and you say, oh, yeah, that's right. He's always...
Things that we start to get a little fishy at Halloween. He always gets like September and October pretty much
Right.
well established. Something big always happens at Christmas. Like in this book, it's the Yule Ball.
Yep.
So I agree.
So
I
don't
love
know.
holidays. I'm here for it. I'm a Christmas elf at heart. So if there are things happening at holidays and it means that I can add items to my decor that are also slightly Harry Potter, I'm here for it. I am here for it. So, of course, we start things off and we get Harry writing to Sirius, saying, never mind. I think the thing with my scar was a fluke. Harry's really nervous and feeling guilty that Sirius could, in fact, be coming to Hogwarts. The repercussions of that. We're worried about the Dementors and Azkaban. And he goes up to the Owlery. And this is our first time that we really get to hang out in the Hogwarts Owlery and see the different owls and see what the building is like there. Hundreds upon hundreds of owls of every breed imaginable were nestled here on perches that rose up to the top of the tower, nearly all of them asleep, though here and there a round amber eye glared at Harry. He spotted Hedwig nestled between a barn owl and a tawny and hurried over to her, sliding a little into the dropping strewn floor. Now, we recently took a trip to the zoo where we got to see a barn owl.
Yep.
And a snowy owl.
Yep.
I believe those were the only owls we saw at the
Correct.
zoo. Yeah. Your impressions on said owls?
I'm in on the snowy owl.
Okay.
I'm out on barn owls.
Why?
Barn owls just don't look good.
Barn owls do a lot of housekeeping when it comes to the mice hanging around your barn. That's their purpose. That's why they're called barn owls. They're like, I'll be hanging here.
Yeah.
Make sure the mice don't get in your house in the winter. Don't be eating your crops.
Whatever. I'll just call
I
it.
actually
I'll
think
call an
barn owls
exterminator.
are quite beautiful.
Well, hold on. Let me make sure that I'm thinking of the right
The barn
thing here.
owl was the one in the barn when we were going to pet the goats.
No, I know that. I can't remember exactly
There's
what
also
a barn owl looks like.
barred owls, which is very confusing because barred owls have almost like zebra stripes on them. That's the kind that my dad
no.
has.
I'm in on barn owls. I'm in
Yes.
on barn owls. Okay.
Okay.
I think barred owl is the one that I'm not in.
Okay,
on.
search barred owl.
Okay,
But yeah,
hold
we
on.
didn't see that at the zoo. There are all sorts of different owls here, but nonetheless, this room is covered in
Yeah.
owl
I'm out
droppings.
on bod. I'm out on the bod. It's too much. Too many things happening.
It looks It looks like a silver sister, like me. It's got some salt and pepper going
It's
on.
too
the
much.
barred owls.
I'm in on the barred owl, and let me look up the snowy owl
You
now
know what
too.
snowy owls look like.
But
It's
I'm making
Hedwig.
sure.
Okay.
I'm making sure.
Oh my goodness.
Snowy
gracious.
owls, I'm in on too.
Yeah.
So barn owl and snowy owl, I'm in. The long-eared owl is a good one too, and the great horned owl, also a nice one.
I feel like that would be the owl you would get.
I feel like that would probably be the one because it looks mean. It looks like it don't take no crap.
And it's slightly boastful.
Yeah, of course.
Like I've got a crown on.
I'd go to the owl shop and they'd be like, "Yeah, sorry, only snowies."
I'd
Sorry,
probably get pigwidgeon.
Hey guys, and I'd be like, "Yeah, no. When you get a great horned owl in, you give me a text.
Okay.
You give me. I don't want no
Alright.
phone calls.
I'll let you know when we see one, Blake. We are going to be hopefully doing some owling tonight this year.
Owling. We're gonna go owling.
Yes, we are.
Are we gonna go with that freaky lady from
Yes,
the
we are.
the
Harry Potter and
one
the Secret
time
Text group.
the one time we went to that thing, just unreasonably obsessed with birds.
Now that our kids are old enough, she works at the Audubon Society.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you have to be
You
that
want to know what's
unreasonably
going on
obsessed.
this weekend?
What?
You're going to see owls.
What do you mean?
It's Raptor weekend at the Audubon Society, and we're totally going to
Oh,
see the
totes.
birds of prey.
Totes my goats going.
Including owls. Anyway, so here we are just gushing about owls. In case you can't tell, I'm pumped that we're in the owlery. Like, I will gladly hang out there. Aside from the fact, I love how she mentions that there's like droppings.
Yeah, imagine all that crap that you got to just walk on.
Well, because owls, when they eat creatures, like yes, they poop, but when they eat creatures, they eat them whole.
Yeah, and so they poop out the bones
I think
and everything.
they barf it out.
Whatevs.
So they like
stats for
they have
nerds.
the regular bird poop. It's not like they like give birth to their food. I think like the fur and bones and all that kind of stuff, there's a special word for it, but then they just regurgitate it, and it's almost like an egg shake ball thing.
Oh,
but
I remember
it's-
you telling me about this word once, and I made fun of you for it. It's called like, I can't remember it now off the top of my head.
pellet.
No, pellets are is pellets? Yeah, a pellet is the thing that
Owl
they.
pellet.
Yeah,
yes.
okay, sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah, okay. No, I was thinking about one of the bugs that you were telling me about. Maybe I can't remember. This was years back in the podcast. I can't remember now. Anyway.
See what it looks like?
Yeah. Oh God, that's gross. I
Okay.
want nothing to do with that.
Well, I'm just saying
This is
that
why I don't.
there's a
This is why I don't
things.
own an owl.
Well,
I don't
I'm
want to deal.
just
I don't want to
saying
deal
that
with the
the author
pellets.
didn't include pellets, and like I thought that.
Well,
that
she
would have
talked
been really
about the
cool.
bones and stuff.
Where?
She talked about the burns in about
She talks about the dropping, how he's sliding on the dropping strewn floor.
right, but there was also another mention of bones and
Okay.
and something else.
Okay.
I don't think she actually exactly said the word pellet, but
She's like, I'll leave that to the owl
But again,
nerds like Mary Larson.
she's sitting there writing this thing. She's going, yeah, right. Stats are for nerds. I don't care about these pellets. Whatever.
I highly doubt that that's what she was like. But anyway, and you know, he goes back in. And he tells Ron and Hermione, I'm trying to like blow Sirius off this trail. I
Yeah.
don't want him here. I'm so nervous. And there's an interesting bit that happens in here. So Hermione is really upset because she's like, it was a lie.
Right.
How dare you? You know that it's, you know, that your scar hurts.
Well, actually, before we get into that,
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing. There's a tacit acknowledgement in this chapter at the very beginning, which we haven't had necessarily, that Harry speaks to Hedwig, and Hedwig has a full understanding of his vocabulary.
He does all the time.
Yeah, but before you could say that Hedwig was just picking up on emotion or whatever, but in this particular case, until Harry says, yeah, I'm going to give this thing to Pig then. Don't worry, you go back to bed. It's fine. And then she sticks out her leg. That is a tacit acknowledgement that the owl specifically knows and understands exactly what Harry is saying, because she's being guilted into doing it. And then she's like, okay, fine, I'll do it, but I'm gonna peck you that much harder just because you deserve this. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, she's a magical creature.
Well, yeah, I know that, but it's just an
She's
acknowledgement.
super smart. She's a super smart owl.
And
she's also very proud.
And it means that she has also comprehended pretty much everything that he has said this entire time. So I just think that's a fun little tidbit. If you look at it closely, you don't
It makes her
recognize
death that much more impactful.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're seeing why Hedwig rocks, because as I said previously, she's one of my top characters. She's a wicked smart owl.
She is a wicked
They've
smart
got a
owl.
connection. She knows what's up. I love her. I love Hedwig.
Oh, goodness. Sorry, go ahead. Continue on with the Hermione and Ron thing.
But anyway, I found it interesting. Here's Hermione being like, "Oh, your scar totally hurt," and Ron's like, "Drop it." And he said this sharply as she opened her mouth to argue some more, and Hermione heeded him and fell silent. So we're seeing bits where they're starting to get a little bit more aggravated with each other, and it's kind of like, I think they're very comfortable in their friendship where they can just kind of call each other out.
Sure.
But for Ron to say this sharply to her, usually Ron would be like, "Hermione, shut your trap. Why don't you just talk about S.P.E.W?" And, like he would usually joke a little bit more. But why do you think he was so strong in the sense that he wanted her to stop badgering Harry about saving Sirius?
That's a good question. I'm trying to get into the mind of Ron Weasley here, and the first thing that comes to my mind is I think Ron is probably more keenly aware of Harry's issues that he's dealing with than Hermione is, because Hermione's stuck in the books and she's doing S.P.E.W and everything, and she thinks the fact of the matter is that Hermione does the right things for the sake of doing the right thing, because it is the right thing. She isn't necessarily convinced by the emotionality of a situation. She is a Griffin Claw. She is absolutely a Griffin Claw. Yet, on the other hand, Ron is, as Harry's best friend, someone who is in tune with Harry's emotions. They sleep near each other. They're in each other's business all the time. Like, my best friend knew more about me because we were in the same room. We roomed together throughout college, and we had these conversations that you just don't have with other people that you would think that are your really great friends. And as we've all discussed, Ron is a Griffin Puff.
Correct.
And as being a Griffin Puff, he is just more sensitive to that emotional state, in my opinion.
I think if Ron knew that Hufflepuff was next to the kitchens, he may have asked the Sorting Hat to move him.
That is a good acknowledgement right there.
What's interesting with this book in particular, so now the boys have been close friends for 3.5, going on 4 years, essentially. This is their 4th year of school. He's had Harry sleep over his house. He's rescued Harry from the Dursleys. He knows firsthand how bad his relationship is with his family. And like you said, they room with each other. They're essentially like school brothers, know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he can really read him well. The things that are unsaid, he knows how hard, Harry doesn't really stand for too many things. Harry isn't like, I'm going to go fight for this cause and fight for that cause. Harry's a pretty even-keeled kind of person in some ways.
Sure.
Other ways,
not so much.
Comes to Voldemort, yeah. But for Harry to feel this
Not
strong,
great, Bob.
when he needs to write this letter, Ron knows it's a big deal. And I think that it's really impactful that in this book, he stands up to Hermione and says it sharply. Like, he puts his fist down, essentially, and says, cut it out. This is a big deal. Because this is also the book where Ron really feels betrayed in a couple of chapters by Harry.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing them stuck together, best friends, doing everything, laughing each other, finishing each other's sentences pretty much. And in just a couple of chapters, Ron's going to be looking at him like, how were you?
Yeah, well,
my best
you
friend?
have to go. You have to go through that range of emotion, right?
Exactly.
In order to get that bottom out that we eventually get in this book. And I think it's already starting to be highlighted in this book, even in this chapter, but we'll get there in a second. In order to buy that low point, you have to have that high point. And that high point right now is Ron defending Harry in front of Hermione. Like, the triumvirate has become like this little partnership.
Yeah.
Just not necessarily 2-on-1, but there seems to be
But there's a closer bond.
There's a
between the
closer
boys.
bond there. And any emotional impact of that fall comes from something like this.
I also like it because if you think about how much time Harry would spend on the Quidditch pitch, bonding with the other members and the other classes. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have Quidditch this year. So really all of his time is in his classes, which he has every single one with Ron.
Yep.
And then in his study halls. I mean, he is with Ron nonstop. You had those years and nonstop.
Sorry.
When you had those grades in junior high and high school where like you were in 99% of the same classes as your bestie.
Yes.
It like was such a rare thing, but you were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the best year ever. This is their best year ever.
Sure.
To Ron, at least. Then we end up hanging on out in the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with Faux Mad-Eye Moody, who decides to tell everybody, you are getting the Imperious Curse on you. This is an unforgivable curse. This is a curse that if you do it, you go straight to Azkaban. And yet somehow
he's doing it.
No, Albus Dumbledore wants you to be taught what it feels like.
Well, here's two big questions. Big overarching questions.
Huge, as Julia Roberts would say.
In Pretty Woman. Great movie.
Oh, I hate that movie.
Great movie. First, does Dumbledore really want it to be taught?
I would say yes.
And if he does want it to be taught, why is he okay with it being taught to fourth years?
Because it's Harry Potter's class.
Yeah. And then secondly, the next big thing is it being taught by Faux Moody to see who he can manipulate via the curse, and can he manipulate Harry via the curse for his ends later on in the story? That is a big question. Like, how is he going to leverage the relationships that Harry shares? Because he has a goal, and he's already started that path on that goal. We saw it last chapter with your boy there, Neville. And
he is my boy.
And taking advantage of Neville, and then making you trust him, and making Neville trust Moody. And hey, let's have a cup of tea. And here's these books. And the plan's already started under effect. Is this just part of the plan? It's all part of the plan, as the Joker would say.
I do believe that Dumbledore would have wanted to make sure that the fourth year class, including Harry Potter, knew about these curses. Dumbledore, as Sirius points out, he's reading the writing on the wall. Like, there are signs about Voldemort steering things up back again. He wants to make sure that Harry and his classmates, but particularly Harry, are as well prepared as possible. What I wish we had a little bit more insight in to get to the bottom of your question is, were the other classes taught any of this?
Right.
Did it start with the fourth years? Do we hear Fred and George ever say like, oh my gosh, yeah, it was so funny when I, had the Imperious Curse put upon me? We don't necessarily get that, so we don't know. Is it his class specifically, or is he teaching it fourth grade years and above? Is this something that Dumbledore said, I want this across the board, this one felt, but because there's no real pain necessarily aspect to it, just so that they can understand what it feels like to have.
It's in a controlled environment, right? There's a teacher there, and given the fact that Dumbledore has brought in Mad-Eye Moody for this 1 year, you do get the sense that Dumbledore sees something coming.
Yeah.
And we talked about that at least a couple of chapters ago.
But remember where we started? We started with the Quidditch World Cup and the Death Eaters coming out and literally torturing these poor muggles, having them 60 feet in the air.
Yeah.
So I really do. I think that Dumbledore is feeling like Voldemort is stirring the pot a little bit. We've got these Death Eaters who have no problem whatsoever harming people.
Yep.
And if the Imperious Curse is one that they can test out to teach the kids how to repel it, that this might be a really good thing to help the next generation.
Sure.
Dumbledore, I think, knows there's another war coming.
Yeah, and again, we get into that big conversation of how much does Dumbledore know?
Yeah.
And that is, oh man, that is like the holy grail of Harry Potter. Like, how much does he know?
It would be a great debate.
Yeah, that's a bargument right there. Like, where you just sit at the bar and you have a couple of butterbeers and then you start arguing about Dumbledore and who's on the Mount Rushmore of wizards, right? Another thing I'd like to point out here too, and I thought about this and it just blew my brain. I don't know. I know.
Whenever you say "I thought,"
what?
I think of I've been thinking a dangerous pastime.
Oh. We know from, at least I know from the films, that when you do
There's Beauty and the Beast reference.
I know, I know,
I know, but some people may not.
Oh my goodness. we know from the films, at least I do, that when you do one of those unforgivable curses,
Yes.
you have to mean it.
You gotta mean.
You gotta mean it, especially if out of
Yes.
Kedavra, the whole thing. You gotta mean it, and you gotta have the talent to do it. It's not just like, oh, I hate you, Imperio. Like, it's like, no, you have to be able to really do it, and you have to mean it. I just want to call out the fact that Harry is defending himself against the Imperious Curse from a Death Eater who, by all accounts, is capable of doing it, number one, and is quite good at it, number two, because we know that he was part of the whole Crucio debacle with Neville's parents. And the fact that Harry is able to fight it off the way that he does, we all kind of need to bow down just a little bit to Harry, and the fact that he is an inexperienced wizard defending himself against a Death Eater.
We're talking about a kid who in his 3rd year could do a full-fledged Patronus.
Yeah,
when kids
right.
in their 6th, 7th year can't even do that kind of stuff.
Right.
I don't think enough credit is due in the films to make us understand that Harry is truly a powerful wizard, because we're looking at a 13-year-old, we're looking at a 14-year-old, and he can casually be like, yeah, I am the chosen one. And we don't get to see it in the grand perspective that, like, no, he's really talented. Yes, he's a talented Quidditch player. We get that.
Yeah.
We get that understanding. I think a lot of us kind of feel just like he is the chosen one. He was lucky, kind of, and he's good.
Yeah.
But he is a great wizard.
Yeah, my sense from the film is that, like, okay, he's famous. He's almost like the Kim Kardashian of wizards. Like, he's famous for being famous. Not that he is explicitly talented. Yes, there is a notion that he can do the Patronus charm, but they don't make that a big enough deal, like that moment of awe, right? They don't have that moment, that Steven Spielberg-esque Dr. Grant looking out at the dinosaurs for the first time moment where you're like, by the way, I have to...
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You don't have that Spielbergian moment where a teacher is looking at Harry and saying, or with the eyes wide open and going, whoa. You don't have that. And in this particular case, I wish they kind of did in the films. I get more of a sense of that from the book, but still not as much as I think he probably deserves. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I also kind of want to talk about the opposing voice that Harry has. That opposing voice is awesome. Because the way that the Imperious Curse works is that it puts you in a suggestible state, in a suggestive state.
The way that it was described made me think of people who are hypnotized. When you go to this hypnotized shows and like people like essentially do this.
Sure.
Or people who have had a few too many butterbeers.
I was just gonna say that. That it reminds me of someone who's had a few too many, and it's not like you're being controlled. You're just succumbing to the suggestions. Like, okay, let's go jump on the bar. That sounds like an awesome deal. Like, let's do that. But there's this voice in Harry's brain that says, you know what? No, I don't think I like doing it. It's not fighting. It's not like you can't do this. It's just like, it's just an acknowledgement. It's just like, no, it's more of like an ignorance of that there is any fight whatsoever. It'd be like me saying to you, Mary, take your phone and smash it on the ground.
Yeah, no.
You'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. And that's how it is. I find that fascinating. And the fact that there is this voice, is it Harry's voice or is it, dare we say, Voldemort's voice?
Well, what's interesting is that when Lord Voldemort comes to power, he legalizes all 3 of the unforgivable curses. And while that is happening is when Harry Potter does this curse multiple times at the Gringotts breakout.
Correct.
And even Minerva McGonagall does this. I'm forgetting the Death Eater's name. I think the Carrow. She does it on one of the Carrows later on. So it's funny because we do have these people use it, Harry and Minerva McGonagall, later on. And you're like, oh no, you're going to go to Azkaban. Well, technically at the time, it wasn't illegal.
Right.
So we're all good.
And the fact that Harry uses it on a goblin, not a human, there's a big difference.
We'll get to that when we get to that. There are some things that can go wrong. You're talking about how they need to mean it. They need to really use it. I love how Snape is the one that teaches Harry Expelliarmus, which of course is his go-to spell. And here, technically, faux Alistair Moody, Barty Crouch Jr., teaches Harry how to use Imperio, which he does use later on.
Right, exactly.
To make sure that he can get a Horcrux. So it's neat that these former Death Eaters...
Well, he's not teaching him how to use Imperio. He's teaching him how to...
Yeah, but he shows the class... He probably does the swish and flick a million times as he's doing it in all of Harry's classmates. And Harry, being this amazing wizard that he is, he learns how to pick it up, and then he remembers it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Several years later, which is pretty crazy. If you did it wrong, you really muddle with someone's brain, and they end up at St. Mungo's. We actually see this as a different thing from the movies and the books, but Draco Malfoy does this on Madame Pomfrey, who then takes care of it with Katie Bell, this whole necklace thing. So we're going to see this curse that the fourth years did learn from Moody, and they do use, which is pretty crazy.
Who Moody is
From Moody.
An actual Death Eater. Like the layers here are great, and one of the things that I kind of want to circle back to here also is the discussion about Ron and how Ron later on is still having a hard time getting the effects of the Imperious Curse off.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it means that he is just you can suggest a lot of things to him. And that also means he can't shake it off. He can't fight off other people's orders or even their ideas or even their opinions, right?
It's like the willpower. Like Harry Potter has such strong willpower that he's able to frequently fight the power of the Horcruxes later on.
Yeah.
Whereas Ron's the one that gets so affected by their draining power that he ends up leaving. So it's not that Ron's bad, but I agree with you. It's like this balance of willpower and...
Yeah, there's just something
strength.
about him. Yeah, there's something about him where I can't say he's not mentally tough, but he's just highly suggestible, and he you can see and feel, and if you wanted to read real deep into this text, you could say that he has an inferiority complex.
I mean, yes, we look at him. He's so upset about how people are going to think about what he looks like with his robes, how he's disappointed that he's poor, when in actuality he's wealthy beyond measure when it comes to friends and family and love.
And
yes,
and that's why when we were talking about the rise of Ron and Harry, and his defending Harry in this moment from Hermione, you can see how he could go from that to, in a couple of chapters, being, again, really highly suggestible and saying, well, F Harry, like, no way, I'm not doing that. The kid did X, Y, and Z things. He's not my friend. Instead of having the fortitude to say, no, you know what, why don't we take a 20-second time out here and let's talk about this. Instead, he just shuns Harry.
My mom's been talking a lot about the difference of reacting versus responding.
Yeah.
So she apologized to me because we had a little bit of a mishap on one of the holidays, and she was like, I reacted.
Yeah.
I didn't properly respond. And I was
Correct.
like, oh, snaps to
that you know what,
personal
Mom?
development.
You know what, Mom?
Bam! Just like that. A winner!
Reactive-tory? I'm making up a word, but you all know what I'm feeling, right?
Yeah. I got you.
Reactionary? What is the word?
Reactionary.
Reactive?
Yeah. Reactive, reactor, reactive.
He is very...
reactionary.
Okay. Thought it was something like that.
Or you could even say that he is passive.
Well, that's not the word that I wanted to use.
Fair
All right,
enough.
so they're going through all their different classes, and as I said, this chapter takes place over 2 different months. We do get a fun rise out of the fact that Professor Trelawney gave the boys top marks for their homework. The homework, which of course they completely lied on. They just added in all these different ways that they can get like ruined in life. And she read out large portions of their predictions, commending them for their unflinching acceptance of the horrors in store for them. But they were less amused when she asked them to do the same thing for the month after next. Professor Trelawney, did she really know that they fibbed in their homework, read them out loud? I'm so proud of you that you're going to have 5 nosebleeds and poop yourself every single day. You guys did such a great job on this assignment. I want you to do next month's predictions. Part of me feels like Professor Trelawney's like, two can tango, boys.
Yeah. Two can play at that game.
Like, we're meant to read this right now in the sense that, like, she's so aloof that, you know, she just loves it. But I'm reading that saying if she gave them the same homework, that's a deep teacher cut. Like, oh, yeah? All right. Let's see what you come up with for next month. Put those creative minds to work.
Oh, goodness gracious.
They definitely put effort in it, so she commended them for their effort. But I think Trelawney, rereading this series this time, I'm giving her more credit. On her predictions, I'm giving her more credit. You know, with the whole, like, oh, I sense this, whatever, and our friends called out that Voldemort was born in December. I'm giving her more credit.
Fair enough. I don't think I'm going to give her that credit.
You don't give her credit in this one?
I don't think I'm
for
going to.
saying I'm going to give you the same homework that you need to predict next month's problems?
I think it's great to retcon that in.
I'm here for it.
Are we going to have to talk about S.P.E.W?
Let's first talk about Professor Snape.
Okay, sure. That he's going to poison kids? He's going to straight up poison kids. And kids were okay. And they were happy with the fact that school was going to be let out early so that he could not poison them.
How do you feel about that? That threat?
I mean, if you're putting the Imperious curse on kids, what the hell is to say that you can't poison them a little bit?
Truth. Here I am. I'm on Snape's side.
Yeah.
He's probably like, Moody's doing Imperious curses. I can poison you. I've got a freaking, what is it? What's the thing from the goat that you pop it in the mouth and they're okay? Oh, I'm so mad. The uses.
A Bezoar?
Yes.
Yeah, I got
Like,
you.
I've got 50 million Bezoars. I've got this. I'll poison one of you.
We'll figure it out. The likelihood of one of them dying is probably not that high.
And Hagrid's like, oh, and I'm going to turn you back into a ferret. Like, he's threatening too. Everybody's threatening right now.
It's the Wild West.
And yet we're all like, oh no, Snape's threatening to poison us. Do you know what the rest of your teachers are doing? He's doing the exact same thing. But he has an antidote.
And, they're turning these animals into pincushions in this chapter.
That's fine.
No. It's not that it's not fine, but just think about that. Why would you want to turn... I can't remember what the animal was.
It's like a porcupine.
Sure, porcupine, whatever. You turn it into a
hedgehog.
pincushion. You're going to stick pins in that thing? Is that thing going to get hurt when it's a pincushion?
No.
Why not?
It's a pincushion.
Yeah, but it's still alive.
No.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Everyone's getting pumped because everything's getting cleaned up. The deep cleaning has begun. I got to tell you, friends, I would love to know from those of you who are listening or tuning in if this happened to you too. I clean when we have company. So when we generally would have
Yes.
company come over, whether for holidays or friends just coming over, we're like, let's clean. So back when we were social, before COVID, our house was cleaned regularly and we like really cared. And then COVID came and we're just like, oh, what is life? I just like cheese and crackers and pub cheese and crackers, which if you haven't had pub cheese, you have not lived
Change your life.
in the panorama. Okay, I'm telling you, you got to try some
You know
pub
what, Mary?
cheese.
We gotta do this.
Pub cheese just alone.
Just for pub cheese.
I don't even know where this came from, but nonetheless, okay, now I do, because they're cleaning. They're like deep cleaning. You know that this is a school. School just began. You know those house elves were like working their poor, unpaid little fingers so hard, scuffing the floors, making everything nice and shiny for the first day of school, and yet they are taking out everything, fixing it up super nice for Beauxbatons and Durmstrang students.
Yes. That's their job.
Okay, well.
That's their job.
We get your friend Ernie McMillan. He's mentioned in this chapter as he's like, ooh, Cedric's going to apply. And everybody's like, Cedric.
Especially
Cedric.
Ron, too, where he's like, dude, that guy?
Well,
And whatever. And he says to Hermione, well, you only like him because he's handsome. Mm-hmm. And she's like, no, that's not the case. He's actually just a really good student. But then Ron comes up with one of the greatest troll jobs.
love Ron.
Coming from the clouds, just coughs Lockhart. Lockhart. Like, if that happens to you, you need to just go to bed. Go to bed, get up the next day, and try again.
So the next time that you're ogling at like a beautiful person being like, oh, I love what she's saying, I could just go, Lockhart. To you. I am going to. And you can't do it to me because I don't fall for like the typical pretty type.
That's because that man is a saint.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is that if you're like, well, this newscaster, she's so riveting, I'll be like,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said that a
no, I
newscaster
no,
is
I know,
riveting.
but you know what I mean. Just friends, use that on your friends. Oh, really? Do you really like them, or is it just a Lockhart? I like this though because obviously there's this beginning romance, sexual tension going on between Hermione and Ron at this point, and he is jealous when she's attracted to Cedric. He is jealous when she's attracted to Lockhart.
Right.
Ron isn't necessarily written as like the most dashing, handsome man alive, so yet another thing that he feels inadequate about.
And it's something that is, you're right, Mary. Even if it's not intentional, which I think that it is, but even if it's not intentional, it's one of those great character traits that Ron has, where he's consistently calling Hermione out for her likes and for her attractions. I love that characterization. Love it.
Okay, so I do think we need to start wrapping things up because I hear some children whooshing around. So
okay, sure.
We've got things going on where, let's be real, let's just go to our friends. Because, like, Hermione throws out some stuff like, oh, it's in the history of magic. We do get the letter from Sirius saying, like we talked about before, you can't pull a fast one on me, Harry. I'm coming. There's nothing you can do about this. Professor McGonagall just, like, throws shade at Neville, like, in front of everybody, being like, don't mess up in front of every... Come on, Professor McGonagall, have a little bit more class. Once again, that would not be written if that was a teacher in 2021.
No.
You do not call out a child's inadequacies in front of the entire
Yeah, that is an early 90s, maybe 80s teacher.
And then they all try to figure out where they're coming from, and we get to see the carriage coming down from the sky.
And Madame Maxime, you know, the way that Beauxbatons is characterized, it is very feminine with the light powder blue and the gold and the carriage with the horses.
The horses whose hooves were as big as dinner plates.
Yeah, like the
just put that into your physical
these
perspective.
horses are the size of elephants.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that. Elephant-sized horses.
I'm all set.
This is
I'm
ridiculous.
scared. No, I'm just scared.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is, it's just characterized. Even like the name Beauxbatons. You know, it's like it's just beautiful.
Like, where are all your consonants? Why can't we hear them?
It just feels very feminine and very dainty and very vulnerable, and yet at the same time, the headmaster of Beauxbatons is Madame Maxime, who is this large woman
She's
who
still dressed ever so beautifully.
No, I know, but it's I like that contrast where she's inhuman in a way, because she is part giant, right? She's the size of Hagrid, and Hagrid's walking around doing his own thing. So I like that contrast.
What's interesting, of course, another big difference between the movie and the book is Beauxbatons is co-ed. We get to see men and females, whereas in the movie, Beauxbatons is all female people brought over. They only have a couple dozen. So, of course, in the book, they're only sending over the people who are eligible to be chosen by the Triwizard Cup, the Goblet of Fire. They're not sending the young kids or anything like that. So it's funny because as these kids are like hankering for a hunk of a Beauxbaton student or a Durmstrang student, particularly if you're looking more at like Harry and Ron's year, they're all upperclassmen.
Sure.
So when you think about that and they're remarking on it, it's typical. Like, ooh, look at this hottie that just came into my school.
Right.
She talks about, is Karkaroff here? And is worried about her horses and everything. So it makes me think, because Karkaroff talks about how it's good to be back at Hogwarts. It makes me wonder, has Madame Maxine never been to Hogwarts? She doesn't even seem to know about Hagrid. And Hagrid's been there for a very long time.
Right.
She doesn't seem to put two and two together that Dumbledore's like, no, he's a big guy too.
Yeah.
He can totally handle this.
So wait, in the movie, is the whole Madame Maxime and Hagrid like romance like not a thing in this book?
I think it's a thing. It's
Okay.
it's a little bit more awkward because she doesn't like to acknowledge that she's part giant.
Okay.
So
Well, when you're walking around and you're 9.5 feet tall, that's kind of odd.
Yeah, like they throw a little bit in the movie, like, oh, what side are you? But in the book, she gets really offended. Because once again, Blake hasn't read this book. It's the only one of the series, and I'm so excited.
Oh man.
And then, of course, we get the lake, and we get to see the ship come on up. And there was a lot of great describing, just like you said, they were able to describe the students of Beauxbatons, the way that they described Durmstrang, just the different attire. And it's interesting because I can't unsee Karkaroff from the movie version,
Correct,
and yet he is very different. He has a weak chin. He has silver hair. He wears like a silver fur kind of coat. So you see him a bit more... and he's very thin, so you see him kind of as like this rat kind of figure.
Sure.
What does a weak chin mean? Because they say that his goatee couldn't cover his weak chin. Does that mean it's actually like a chubby chin? Is a strong chin?
No chin. Like, okay, you think a big chin. That would be like Tom Brady. That's a strong chin.
Give me somebody else. I don't care about his chin.
I can't think of
Jay
anyone.
Leno?
Jay Leno's a strong chin.
Okay.
That's a strong chin.
Okay.
A weak chin would be.
I have a strong chin.
Would be yes you do. Would be like
Let me
Patton
see your
Oswalt.
chin. Do you have a weak chin?
I don't got a weak chin. I got a good chin.
I don't know.
I'm not weak. I ain't
You've
strong.
got a beard, so it's hard to see.
I'm in that sweet spot.
You have a chin.
I don't got a butt chin. I'll tell you that. No butt chin here.
Hey, well, some people do, and I'm okay with butt chins. But I just don't know how people shave a butt chin. How do you
Yeah, like, how do you
in
like?
there?
Do you like have to?
Maybe you
spread
wax it. I don't know. But nonetheless, he has a weak chin, so that just means it goes like face to neck.
Yes, pretty much. Pretty much.
Okay.
And the characterization in the film is far different, like you
Very
said.
angular and
Yeah.
dark. Yeah. So it was just interesting to see the differences.
And
I
even
honestly
the way,
had forgotten
even
that.
the way that the Durmstrang students are described, like you said, it just feels very masculine with the way that they wear their furs and everything, and they're coming like they're. There's something to be said here about Beauxbatons coming from the sky and descending down, and from the heavens, if you will, and Durmstrang coming up from underneath the
Hades.
water, from Hades, from the
Yeah.
underworld, and here they are showing up in this
Yeah.
masculine style formation. There's something there about that.
I agree.
Lastly, Mary, I do have to say something that there is actual textual evidence that the author is undermining S.P.E.W.
Whatever.
Very specific
Because this
evidence.
is written from Harry's perspective, generally.
No,
on things.
no,
No, I really do. I think we're frequently in Harry's perspective,
Well,
even though it's
Agreed, but it's not undermined because of Harry's perspective.
okay.
The reason why I think that S.P.E.W. is undermined are two reasons. One, Hermione has never been to the kitchens and she's called out for it. And then when she actually has to defend why she's doing it, she says, "Well, they're undereducated and they've been brainwashed." So she is now making a case that she knows better for the elves than they do, and that not only must they be undereducated, they are so easily manipulated that they're brainwashed by.
Well, I think once again, it's just showing you a younger person who's taking their first stand and hasn't necessarily done the research. It's not that
Exactly.
S.P.E.W. is bad. It's not that the author thinks that house elves should be treated improperly, because in fact, the author feels very differently. We look at what was happened with Dobby, but Hermione hasn't done her due diligence. She's just been reading books, making her own opinions.
And my second reason for this S.P.E.W. being undermined by the author is that when Hermione is set to go into this great defense of S.P.E.W. and why she is going to do it, immediately the author introduces the post, so that it totally nullifies Hermione's argument. It just sets it to the side and says, yeah, it's not important. Here's the mail, and then it's the serious letter that gets us back on track to the actual plot of the story. So that is why those two reasons why the author is undermining
Okay.
Hermione's use of S.P.E.W. So that's that.
I'm not riveted.
Well, some people are, and some people keep asking me why I hate S.P.E.W. There you go.
Because he's just a hater. Who's going to hate? That being said, my love, I do need to go attend to the children. And this is
Yes.
part of the situation that happens with a mom and pop shop podcast. So actually, Blake is going to be wrapping things up for this podcast episode.
Okay.
We are going to do a different perspective at the beginning of next episode.
Oh, okay.
To tackle this one, just so I can make it up to you. But I hope that you all can forgive me. And those of you who are parents, you get it. This is real life.
Yes.
We're both down here, and I want to attend to them, as I know that they need some assistance right now. But take it away, Blake.
All right,
You're in good
I
hands.
will close it out. Well, thank you, Mary, for joining us this evening. I appreciate it. And yeah, I should just keep talking about how much I hate S.P.E.W. Why not? I'm in control. I'm the host.
No.
Mary just came running back saying no. Oh, man. That's good stuff. All right, you know what? I'm nowhere near as good of a host as Mary is, so I apologize for there not being a different perspective today, and also the listener feedback. We got a little carried away with all the stuff that we were talking about here in this chapter, which is a good chapter. It sets many things up for us for the rest of the story. So we'll do the different perspective, and for those of you who wrote emails and comments and everything, we will get to them next episode. that is it for now, ladies and gents. Let's close this bad boy out, shall we? So, thank you everyone for taking the time to listen to the Potterverse and hearing Mary and I discuss all things Harry Potter. We really do appreciate it, and especially coming from a mom and pop podcast operation. This is a big deal. This is a really big deal to what we do here, and your engagement and your following and your help is what gives us life. It's what gives us the opportunity to reach out to more people and make these podcasts and create these communities and give people a home and feel like, they're nerds, and it's okay to be nerds, and let's all be nerds together. Speaking of nerds, go to jointhenerdclan.com if you want to help support this podcast in any way that you can think of. We are, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, we are looking for a brand new computer that will take care of our entire studio and help us give more engaging and personal content in the ways that Mary and I can do. You can do that by going to jointhenerdclan.com and becoming a member there. We have a goal of 1,000 members, and we're getting very, very close. Until then, ladies and gents, mischief man. Oh, no, my name is Blake. Mischief managed.